Resident Evil is my all-time favorite video game franchise, ever, and it makes me so proud. It also sends me into extended periods of extreme existential dread for how much it pisses me off with its ideas. To be completely fair, Capcom has to evolve the franchise. Things need to change or they'll go stagnant. That's one reason I think that every 3 entries they jump to a new console generation and change the point of view. The first 3 had fixed camera angles and more horror-centric B-movie vibes. A guilty pleasure, endlessly replayable. The first game in particular has become fondly remembered for how charmingly bad the voice acting was, but also how effective limited resources were in creating a tense environment for the player, where they needed to turn a corner to make the camera move and decide when to save, as even that was a limited resource. I love everything about this trilogy. It's not perfect in design, but it does a hell of an awesome job for creating tension when done right. And if you've gotten to the point you can only run from enemies because you threw the knife into the black abyss of the item box, as you do, congratulations, you're probably fucked. And look, no matter how good this video is subjectively, my trivia and storytelling ain't gonna hit as hard as the retrospective masterpieces by Liam Triforce, Avalanche Reviews, Jay's Reviews, Clement J64, Sphere Hunter, Witch Taunter, your favorite son. This bar's been set pretty high. I mean, Jesus, man, throw a rock in any direction, you'll hit an unsuspecting Resident Evil video made by overzealous fans who insist tank controls in a modern-day indie game are definitive survival horror. My point in this long-ass explanation of the differences of every 3 games, 7, 8, and 9 are first-person view, and mark my words, 9 is gonna have over-the-shoulder, also 8 sucked. This, however, is my love letter to the good old PS1 trilogy. Not just because I adore them dearly to the point I actually order these badass custom DVD cases on the internet. Every night I make sure to tuck them in, read them a bedtime story, and kiss them goodnight. Okay, only the last part is true. The first 3 are special to me because although they begin to veer more towards action with every successive entry since RE2, it's no wonder they remade 2, 3, and 4. And 3 is my favorite of the bunch, shut up. I particularly am in love with Resident Evil 1, which in my opinion has the best remake ever burned to a disc. But that disc happened to be on the GameCube and not enough people owned one to give a crap. It would have been forgotten were it not for the HD remasters on the PS4 and the Xbone. Hot take, this is the perfect survival horror game. I think the only other one I think is my favorite on par with scares and survival, Fatal Frame. Dead Space is up there too, I like Dead Space. It should be a criminal offense to sleep on the live-action intro of this game, and it should be mandatory for everyone to try what is, in my humble and objectively correct opinion, the Nintendo DS port, which incorporates touch controls, lightning-fast door animations, microphone blowing, and a dedicated knife button. It sucks slightly less than before, but it's still an absolute last resort if running from monsters in a video game from 1996 isn't in your nature. The first game is really fun to speedrun for me, at least until I return to the mansion and all the zombies are replaced with fucking hunters. I'll use my pistol pretty much exclusively until I come back to the mansion. And then it's Shotgun City, baby. 2 shots take down a hunter, and the only thing that sucks worse than this is you got the caves afterwards, and those narrow corridors and blind corners have hunters in them too. I would say I hate this, but honestly the caves are just the only part I don't like. There's no footage because I was trying to make a video love letter, not do a let's play. I really like how the items are 3D modeled and in the first game, and you can rotate and examine them. There's yet one more reason on a mountain of others why the first game tops my list. This game contained a lot of puzzles, but they were like logic puzzles that weren't too hard to figure out. For example, you walk into a room with a bunch of portraits and they're like labeled in order from a person's birth to their death, which is pretty cool. And this wouldn't return again until Resident Evil 3, which is about 3 years later. Silent Hill would copy their homework and do a much better job of making the puzzles more esoteric and more difficult to figure out, but they were really worth it in the end. Let's get back to Resident Evil. Now, Resident Evil 2 was the first game I actually played in the series, and one of the very first PS1 games I owned, after Metal Gear Solid and Mortal Kombat Trilogy. We'll talk about those ones someday, I promise. Being that it was my first exposure to tank controls, here's how it went the very first time I ever booted up the game. Yeah, it wasn't good. Also, I have the manuals for the first and the third games, but not the second. And weirdly enough, the horror tone seems to be largely absent from the manual. And the whole thing is also written in the font Comic Sans. Like, was Courier too busy that night? Did Times New Roman already have plans? Not even Helvetica, or that weirdly overused Bank Gothic font that looks cool on everything. Know what font I would have appreciated? Any font besides Comic Sans. And Mistral. Fuck Mistral. I do love the death animation with whatever killed you still killing you while you died covers the screen. That's pretty metal. Anyway, Resident Evil 2 is how you do a sequel to a game about a virus turning a town into zombies. This game also introduced walking animations to clue you in on your character's health level, which is some polish back when I first played this that blew my mind. It's a more immersive version of the first game because you don't need to pause the game every 17 seconds to see if you should use your last green herb or not. Thank you, Capcom! And also, unlike the first game, you can escape a bite by fidgeting with the controls, but you'll still take at least some damage, so don't think you can shake off every attack. But the fact that I can wiggle out of a zombie grab is pretty cool and instinctive. Some of them dive at you though, which is marginally less cool. The Licker is the new enemy this time and gets its own cutscene. It's my favorite creature design ever, but it can also give me a tiny heart attack since they have a tendency to just pop in. Yeah, thanks for that! Fuck me! Oh my god, I knew it was coming and it still scared the shit out of me. God, I hate that. This game is also unique for having two separate scenarios that actually intersect for a combined narrative, as opposed to the first game where the character selection screen was basically easy mode and hard mode. For the record, I enjoy playing as Jill more because Barry is in her scenario and he is the king of quotable lines. I'd show some, but I don't have a viable capture strategy other than pointing a tripod at a TV screen like an early 2000s internet gaming channel. Hello Internet, we're going to review Resident Evil 4. The NES. It's too difficulty. We're going to put it on easy because this is hard game. I tried to make it for, but it's hard. It reminds me of shitty game from 80s. Oh look, zombie. We have zombie to fight. Oh no, he's zombie. No gun. We don't have no gun. So we need to use a gun. And we're going to shoot a zombie. I don't know what button to press, but we die. So sorry. We'll try next time. All jokes aside, this game came as two discs. Disc 1 was Leon and Disc 2 was Claire. Starting a game in either disc is the A scenario, and when you finish that disc, pop in the other one for the B scenario. Canonically, the game is Claire A, Leon B. When I first played this, I used to do Leon A, Claire B. I can easily clear a Leon scenario A, but I struggle at the very end of Claire's A scenario with the final enemy. I've also kind of played RE2 so much when I first got it that it got less exciting to me, so that's why 1 and 3 are higher up on this list of favorite RE games. Don't get me wrong, Resident Evil 2 improves every single thing the first game did. Enemy variety, voice acting, character detail, the plot. I just prefer the mansion because it feels simultaneously claustrophobic and wide open at the same time, and the enemy placement is genius. The puzzles were downgraded to key fetching, but once in a while you get the occasional brain teaser like when you need to make a fuse in the lab. Sorry I didn't get footage, it's just... I mean, do I need a clip of everything? Look, the whole point of this video is to give you guys an insight as to why these are my favorites, and it absolutely baffled me how much Resident Evil got right on its first try. They could have been so half-assed, but these guys made something worth bragging about. They even mentioned Resident Evil in Mega Man Legends, or in my case, Mega Man 64. Speaking of the N64, did you guys know there was a port of Resident Evil 2 on it? It has the worst quality cutscenes, but that's only in comparison to the disc versions. They run pretty good. The fact that the Nintendo 64 version contained the same stuff included in the PS1 version, along with smoother models and some pre-Resident Evil 0 stuff, really is something to write home about. Check out Lotus Prince's videos about the version differences for each game. I love that dude, and I'm not about to steal his thunder. One thing RE2 did really well was implement a Stalker enemy of sorts, or at least the idea of a Stalker enemy, the T-002 Tyrant, or as he's officially known probably because of the novelization of the game by S.D. Perry, which, while not being canon, are really good reads, Mr. X. He is a scripted enemy, but if it's your first time playing, he provides some really, really effective pants-shitting moments, like when you're in this narrow corridor and he just fucking appears and slowly stalks towards you. Stalker enemies would be carried over into Resident Evil 3, which perfected the Stalker enemy, and the remakes of 2 and 3. Mr. X in the remake of 2 was done too well and annoyingly chases down the player to the point some players apparently modded him out of the game completely. And in the remake of 3, Nemi was a bit underdone and needed more time in the oven because he became less of a stalker and more of a boss that you could pants in front of class if you knew how to abuse his AI. The original Nemesis only had one weakness, and it was level geometry. When I first saw this being done by speedrunners, I nearly choked to death laughing. But when I tried it, I found out that his AI realizes he hasn't punched anything for a few seconds, and so he will serpentine until he releases himself from this hilarious oversight. Pro tip from your buddy LJ, this is a really cool method of beating him if you want to get the Eagle Pistol parts. It doesn't make Nemesis any less scary either, especially since a slight miscalculation will result in Jill getting a clothesline from hell. Resident Evil 3 is tied with the first game for me in terms of being my favorite. I love that Jill actually has elbows now and not just ivory rectangles that approximate an elbow. A lot of things make this my favorite game visually in the series, and one of the things I absolutely adore is a hulking motherfucker who carries his namesake, Nemesis. I don't care how many times I know it's going to happen. When this guy jumps through a window with a fucking rocket launcher, I jump, and I panic. Oh shit. Oh my god! Holy shit. Ah, shit. Same with the stupid liquor in the interrogation room too. Fuck you, I hope your car stalls in a Circle K parking lot in the Canadian winter, you bastard. Props to the programmer who put the thing there. That was pretty clever. Nice work. Got me to jump. Apparently one thing nobody likes is the RNG, which can range anywhere from game-breakingly generous to the programmer sending the video game equivalent of a mob hit to murk you in your sleep. Thanks, Capcom. I'm not really one for speedrunning, but I like seeing how fast I can get into a playthrough. The third game in particular had such cruel RNG that it was thought impossible until some brave, bored soul on the internet proved everyone sucked at the game and he set the world record. I can't speedrun 3 because its puzzles aren't just find a key, open door, or move a statue, flick a switch. Now it's 3 balls, different weights, clocks, and the answer is different every time. Or water purification puzzle. The puzzles are front-loaded with so many moving parts, like having to get the trolley moving with machine oil you have to do something to, an electrical cord off a car, and a fucking fuse for the thing to run. Sure, some of these you might incidentally pick up along the way. The game is generous enough to include a type of hint system where by checking the map, your next suggested destination will be shown flashing in blue. This saved my ass quite a few times. But the puzzles themselves? Why are you making me slow down and solve a riddle that sometimes requires me to actually grab a piece of paper and a pencil, find a flat surface to write on, and list every possible combination I've tried in order to just fucking brute force both the water purification puzzle and the pecker sucking clock tower orb puzzle? I love this game, but these 2 puzzles in particular can throat my scrot and play in traffic. They would be clever puzzles if the answers weren't randomized every time. I got a city in crisis, I ain't got no time to be solving puzzles. I gotta be out there busting caps and double tapping zombies like is expected of a STARS officer. I took an oath to serve and protect. Is that too much to ask, Capcom? Is it too much? I guess I felt like Resident Evil 2 had dumb puzzles idiots could solve and thought, man, that new Silent Hill game looks like it has logic puzzles. Let's copy their homework. See why I like the first game better than you, Nemi? Do you see? Aside from the bullshit random number generation that can tank an entire save file, meaning you stayed up all night drinking zero sugar monsters and screaming into a webcam at 4 in the morning for nothing, just the lulz, there's one other thing about the third game I like. Jill! Don't get me wrong, she has a personality of a plank of wood with boobs, but make no mistake, she's a stone cold badass in this game, and I love her. Not as much as Jill in the remake, she's my favorite gaming heroine of all time. I'm sorry, Lara. I'm sorry. Jill satisfied me in a way you never could. Oh, and also don't be intimidated by the title screen that says easy and hard mode. Easy is normal difficulty, but Japan likes trolling us, especially Capcom. In Mega Man 2 on NES, they pulled the same bullshit with normal and difficult, which really should have said easy and normal. God, that game really needs Contra mode. You know, where one hit can kill you. That would be awesome. One complaint I do have of the original Nemesis game is actually Mercenaries mode. First of all, I like that you have to run from the trolley at the end of the city section to the starting office at the other side. I love that you get to play as 3 different characters representing 3 levels of difficulty. And I absolutely love jibbing a crowd of zombies for that sweet, sweet time bonus. I just hate that I need to play this in order to get infinite ammo for all weapons. So I stopped at infinite ammo for the rifle, tried all 3 characters, and just went back to the main game. It's fine, but I kind of wish I had more modes to play. Remember Tofu? Remember Hunk? Remember the other places in Nemesis other than the city? Remember? Maybe it was Crunch that made the game mode so limited, but hey, at least you got something for beating the game. And another cool thing they've added were the bio pages of other Resident Evil characters like Barry and Chris. And if you want Jill's diary, you're gonna have to collect every single document in a single playthrough. And if you miss one, tough shit, start over, you YouTube influencer sponsored by Dollar Shake Club or Raid Shadow Legends or Boon or something that people like. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this temperamental rant about my favorite video game series of all time. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if so, like and subscribe and all that other douchey YouTuber stuff for more content. Either way, I'm going to produce long-form videos gushing about games I love or hate, and maybe you guys will get a kick out of it. I want to give a huge shout out to the channels I mentioned earlier because they have some A+ content, or should I say, S-tier content. If you want to see how real Resident Evil love letters are converted in video form, I highly recommend those guys, especially Clement J64 and Witch Taunter. Those dudes' channels are criminally underrated, and if you like this video, stay tuned because the next one of these I'm going to do is probably about the Mortal Kombat's 3D era, because it's easier. And I'm going to start playing some Mortal Kombat. See you in the next one. Oh, and like and subscribe for more of my nonsense.